Welcome everybody to Talk Nerdy to Me and a Minecraft challenge here on the channel. I have decided to do something I'm going to call the directional challenge. Now, let me explain a couple of rules real quick. What we're going to do is if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the coordinates. The first coordinate is the X coordinate. That is your east-west direction. The second coordinate is up and down. That's your vertical position on the map. The last number is your north-south. But let me explain something. Normally, when you're looking at a grid, you would think that if you're increasing the number, you're going north. Well, let me show you something. That's not how Minecraft looks at it. If we look at our map here, it's indicating that we're facing south. But as we move that direction, you can see that our third coordinate is increasing. If we turn around, and now you can see that we're facing north, the number decreases. So what's the challenge going to be and how are we going to do it? Well, here's what my idea is. We're going to start by building a basic base at 0, 0. We're talking about the the first and the last coordinates. There's a drowned right there. Um, and so what we're going to do is we're going to pick a direction. In this case, we're going to go south. No, in this case, we're going to go north. Um, and I'm going to die to the drowned. Protect me, dolphin. Protect me. I only eat dolphin-safe tuna. So we're going to pick a direction, and I think we're going to go north, which means our second base is going to be at 0. Whatever the second number is doesn't matter. And then the third digit is going to be negative 500. So we're going to move 500 blocks north to our next base. So one of the rules in this series that I'm going to give myself is that the first base, I'm only allowed to use wooden tools until I've made a second base. Once I've completed the second base, the first base and the second base must be connected. At the second base, I'm allowed stone tools. By the time I hit the third base, which will be at 0, 1, minus 1000, I'm then allowed to use iron tools. We're going to skip over gold tools because they're useless. So at the fourth base, I will then be allowed to use diamond. So wood, stone, iron, diamond in that order. I can build whatever else I want. I'm allowed to set up a farm at each base. There's no rules against that. Just that I cannot use more than wooden tools at the first base, stone tools at the second base, iron at the third, diamond at the fourth. From there, we may add rules as we go along. But with the sun going down, I'm going to, through the magic of editing, come back once the base is completed. Hello, Mr. Turtles. Welcome to my humble abode. Welcome, viewers, to my crappy little house. Again, remember, we weren't allowed to use anything but wooden tools. So this is what I got. It took me 4 in-game days to get to this point. So just a little structure over the water, because remember, the base has to be located on 0, 0. So that's what this middle spot indicates. Uh, Finally got a bed after 3 nights. Got a chest, not much in here. Working on getting a fishing pole. Crafting table. Furnace. Right now I'm only able to use wood to create a fuel source. And out back I've got my little garden. This will ultimately be the road that leads us to negative 500. Maybe I plant crops the entire way. Maybe I don't. But now that we're back, you may have noticed in the background here, there's a boat, a ship. We're on a boat. Boat, ship. Boat, ship. I should know the difference because I cruise all the time and people always call it a boat. And people get very unhappy when you call a cruise ship a boat. Perfect. We can get off here. Can we reach that chest? Sweet. That's actually not bad. That's a nice find. We will, I mean, the rotten flesh doesn't matter. The wheat's nice because we need a food source. Let's go check the other one. 2 treasure maps? Oh, unknown map and a treasure map and a lot of paper. All right, let's look at what we got. Leather pants, protection 3, very nice. Leather boots, fire protection 3, thorns 2, feather falling 4, unbreaking 3. That's going to carry us for a long time. Let's take a look at the treasure map. Might be easier if I don't put it in my offhand and actually look at it. So that means it's going to be south of us. The reason we know this is because in Minecraft, as I tried explaining in my first couple takes, oh, there's another chest. Sweet. Now, remember, we're not allowed to use iron tools until our 3rd base. But 5 emeralds, 4 full ingots, you know, a little bit of nuggets there. That's going to make a nice difference because once we are able to use iron tools, that gives us what we need to create an iron pickaxe if we haven't found any other iron up to that point. So, as I was saying, we know because we're a little dot on the map, we know that this treasure map is pointing south. Because in Minecraft, when you're moving up on a map, you're actually moving south. So we'll see how long it takes us to pop up on the map. Plenty of ocean in front of us. Looks like we also need to head east slightly. So there we go. We're heading slightly southeast. We're almost lined up with it so we can straighten out our eastern movements, which is that first number. I should be looking around for resources right now, villages and things like that. One thing we have to decide is, are we going to allow pillaging of villages? Speaking of villages, there's one right there in front of us. And I believe we're now on the map. Or we are not on the map. Okay, well then. Good to know that there's a village over here. Where did it go? We're not going to mess with the bees. We don't have any way to get their honey right now anyway. Alright, village is way over there. We're going to just ignore that because I've got the feather falling boots on. Should have probably moved my boat. All right, so let's talk about it. The fact that I just mentioned it and then we found the village. Am I allowed to pillage villages? Well, I don't know. I don't know what's a good answer. I've already got a bed, so there's no reason to steal their beds. I could use a leather tunic, and I can definitely use some bread. I don't need the pants. I do need the leather. I could definitely use some torches. Let's not use our limited sword. I don't have a way to move that. That backpack is going to come in handy. The bundle, that's what it's called. I could probably use that to store all my food. Sorry, Mr. Villager. I need your bed. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Please, please, I'm sorry. Do not go get the iron golem. It was an honest mistake. I was just trying to steal your bed for the night. No need to have me murdered. I think those are just dyed pants. Those aren't enchanted. Pretty good village here. Tons of food. We're now up to 6 emeralds without doing any trading yet. What we should do is go find out what the farmer wants. And then start producing that. You're not the farmer. No, you're the same guy we saw. We are going to liberate your carrots. There's the farmer. Sir, sir. No, no, no. No, no, sir. Come back. You still have a farm. Okay, well, we lost the farmer because I think he couldn't get to his farm. You got anything upstairs? Just a child to murder. I mean, we would never do anything like that. Just a child to protect from zombies. There is an iron golem here, so we have to be careful about accidentally, intentionally hitting villagers because the iron golem will one-shot us. There's another farmer. Good. Where'd he go? Mr. Farmer. Ronald. There you go. He wants beets. We don't have beets. All right, let's finish visiting the village, which they did a really bad job of. Hi, sir. Hello, sir, 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 sir. You don't have anything to trade. They did a really bad job of picking where to put their village. Of course, I'm sure they didn't expect someone to come in and steal all their apples and potatoes. But you know what they say, potatoes are very versatile. You could even boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Anybody? No? Okay. Nothing in there. He does have a torch. I need the torches because right now I cannot mine coal. I can use 2 pieces of wood to make charcoal. What do you have in there? Nothing. Oh, they got a nice little restaurant. Nothing. Remember, all this started out. Oh, there's some. No, I thought those were beets for a second. That is not. So I made it back to our base, and I had done a little bit of trading with one of the villagers just to level him up. So we had 8 emeralds, we're down to 2, but we got plenty of bread. Don't know why that bread was separate from the other bread. Plenty of bread, plenty of apples. More potatoes that I need to plant, which reminds me, do I have a shovel? I do, but it's broken. All right, so we'll just go until the shovel breaks. Wasn't very long. I think I've got 14 potatoes left to plant. Where's my dirt? I'm at 9. Let me put it down in my toolbar so I can see how much I've got. We're going to need a lot, so we might as well gather what we can. I don't think it's much faster using a wood shovel than it is just breaking it with our hands. Sometimes you just gotta break it with your hands, you know? All right, so we'll finish this strip here. Should put us at 41. And then we'll go lay it down. It's actually going to be perfect because I was 1 off on that. I said perfect, but it's actually not going to be perfect. It's going to take care of what we need to take care of right now. That's the important thing. And that should be enough for our potatoes. Not quite. Almost. Almost time for some new tools here, too. All right, we'll start down here. Oops. Not trying to beat the ground with the potato. It's okay to beat it with your hand, but not with a potato. All right. So our very long garden is starting to take shape. Not very much has grown, mostly because right now I've got the chunk simulation down low. I am playing on Xbox Series X. But the final thing we're going to do today is I'm not going to get perfectly lined up probably with 0. Though if I head perfectly straight in this direction, we're going to go see what's at negative 500. Because negative 500 is our next base build. We do not have to have the road complete before we start building over there. We just have to have the road complete before we move to our third base. Now, you can argue that a boat is a mode of transportation and that we shouldn't have to build a road. And I would agree with you. Except the whole idea is that if other people were to come into the game world, they could simply follow the path and get from base to base. All right. Hello, Mr. Turtles. Not bad, except mangrove swamps. Where is negative 500 going to be? Are we going to make it to land? I don't know. Yep, it looks like we are, just barely. I mean, really, really just barely. And then there we go. Whoop. Mm, mm, nope, this way, this way. All right, here we go. We now know that this is where our next base is going to be. Not too bad. I see some mushrooms around. Probably should have done this in the morning instead of doing it at night because, now I've got to try to get back home safely. Um, Not too bad. Like I said, we got the mangrove swamps, we got some giant mushrooms, there's plenty of trees around. This will be where we're allowed to start using stone tools. So let's get back to our base. The problem with the mangrove swamp is that it makes it more difficult to build the road that I'm talking about because it's water. Now, again, I could destroy the land between the ocean and the mangrove swamp because it's not very much and just say that it's a boat trail, a boat trail, a path for the boats to go. The problem with that is I don't think it's the greatest plan I've ever had. So instead of trying to do that, where'd my boat go? Down there. Instead of trying to do that, I think we're just going to continue to build our road over time. We know what coordinates it has to be on. So it's easy to build it from either direction. You can actually see our house from here. Let's see if I can get this lined up perfectly from a distance. And that right there, I had it. There we go. All right, there we are, back at base. Not a bad first episode, if I do say so myself. I didn't cut too much stuff out, the base building mostly, because the first few nights didn't really have much in the way of content. I did die a couple times, which was extra annoying because typically in Minecraft, especially with some of the later updates, you spawn into the world usually at 0, 0. Again, I'm not counting the second coordinate. Um, but sometimes if it's going to be water, which in this case it would have been, it will pick a different coordinate to spawn you in at, which it did in this case, which again makes it a little bit on the annoying side, because now I had to travel all the way over here. And then when I died, I had to travel back. So thank you all for joining me. I know that there wasn't a lot of excitement in this episode. We are going to find that treasure. I'm not giving up until I do. Uh, but in the next episode, we will travel back to -500 and we will start building our second base. Hope to see you all then. Until then, have a good day.